Welcome back to the Neil Oliver Show, hosted at least in part from my house. A government watchdog, the Committee on Climate Change, says the new Labour administration needs to hugely increase the generation of renewable energy if the UK is not to breach the Paris Agreement. The previous government has committed to a reduction of 68% in annual carbon emissions by 2030, compared with 1990 levels. Is such a target remotely achievable, and is it even desirable for us to take measures which could potentially have a negative economic impact? I'm joined now by Greg Gormley from Scoot Eco, which offers carbon footprint solutions for businesses. Hello, Greg, are you there?
Hello, I am indeed. How are you?
I'm fine. Greg, I don't know how aware you've been of the stance that I've taken on all of this over the months and years, but if not, I am of the opinion that the climate crisis, so-called, is a scam. And
Right.
therefore, even before we get to, debating the pros and cons of the efforts to get to net zero, persuade me if you can that any of this is any more than maximising profit for the usual suspects.
Right. Well, certainly, you have the IPCC, which is the Intergovernmental Panel of Climate Change. It's basically the top 195 scientists from around the globe. And with their sixth assessment, they have established and said that human beings are warming up the planet. And that is the main premise from where climate change starts. Now, there is the argument about speed. There's the debate about the naysayers saying, it's going to happen in the next decade. It's not going to happen in hundreds of years. But ultimately, the bottom line crux is human beings are warming up the planet. And that is the starting point where I'd go from.
You accept that? Would you say that that is no longer a matter for debate?
I would say it's no matter for debate anymore, because you can look over the past 25, 50 years and you can actually see the temperatures going up on an increased basis. And I know there's lots of debate about the Earth has been different temperatures over the years, but the reality is human beings weren't on the planet when woolly mammoths were there, etc. So we have to be careful about what we're doing with the planet. And if you look at what we're doing today, just in terms of A, how we live, B, how we have everything pre-packed and just have everything so ready for us, that we are actually causing this damage to the planet that is actually doing this warming up.
A friend of mine, Nick Hudson, has what he a heuristic, really, that he calls Hudson's razor. And he says that when anything is described as a global crisis, and when it's insisted that there are only top-down, one-size-fits-all global solutions, and a third part is very important, when any dissent from that opinion, any dissent is being stamped upon with ever-increasing ferocity, he says that is the sign of a scam, that you
Right.
always have to prick up your ears when those three things come together. And that move, that insistence on a collectivist approach that brooks no dissent, is really at the heart of why I think we really have to think before we sign what I regard, being Agenda 2030, as a suicide note for half the population of the planet.
Yeah. I mean, one point I utterly agree with is that there is not one answer. People are saying we have to do this. That is not the case. It is a combination of things we have to do. And it's about balance. Life is a massive balancing act. And the reality is, if we just stopped producing oil tomorrow, the world would stop. So that's not actually possible. What we have to do is try and plan. And actually, we should try and utilize, like renewables being the next industrial revolution, to make cost of living cheaper for us, but actually fit it into being more sustainable as well. On the 4th of Jan 2023, 88% of our power produced in the UK was from renewable source, which is amazing. So it shows it is possible to get to this 100% and actually grow with it. So from my point of view, I think it's about balance. We can't just rush things. And I understand your sentiment saying that, there are people out there that are looking to profiteer from it. I'm very much about saying, look, we need to look at this and work together. And it's important to have debate as well.
Andrew Eborn, what say you? I think it's in the marrow of my bones that I'm suspicious about collectivist global solutions that will entertain no debate and talk about consensus and the science. What's your reaction?
I think you're absolutely right. Whenever you shut down debate, then absolutely our hackles should rise, because the reality, we must question everything. We become so reliant on so-called experts, and time again experts have been proved wrong. What I found fascinating in the recent election was actually Reform's policy was saying, look, we can get rid of all our troubles about the NHS and underfunding here and so on and so forth if we simply abandon the net zero pledge, which was an interesting take on it. And he was accused, Richard Tice at that stage was accused of weaponising the climate crisis. But we have to be able to question it, and we have to make sure that we listen to all sides in the debate, because if you shut down debate, then basically you're going to shut down getting the truth.
Greg, you talk about renewables, and for most people, myself included, we're talking there about wind turbines and solar panels. Now, yeah. Seriously, Greg, those are not sources of energy that can be relied upon round the clock, and most specifically, they cannot be relied upon. The sun doesn't shine when we need it, and the wind doesn't blow when we need it. In what sense is anyone even being realistic about talking about alternatives?
Absolutely agree. And this is where actually now there's been some planning law changes for battery storage, which is something that we need to do. We lose approximately 10 to 20% every day of our renewable power. Now, if we spent money on actually battery storage for that renewable power, so we actually had it at the source, for the national grid to draw on, that would actually help the national grid massively, and we could actually start building upon that. And now you can actually get planning permission on Greenbelt for critical infrastructure for these battery solutions. And it's something that more and more people are going to start investing in. And I think combined with the new Labour government, I think it could be something that works really well.
Greg Gormley, thank you very much for your brave contribution in the face of my cynicism. But I have to reiterate that as far as I'm concerned, the so-called climate crisis is the biggest hoax yet foisted upon the human species on this planet. But thank you very much for your insights, Greg.